So here we are in an empty parking lot in somewhere outside of, not far from Warsaw, during the last charge of the night. It's been a super long day. We are tired. Kids are still awake, surprisingly. My husband is still barely talking to me, especially because we have to do this video the second time, because the first one I actually didn't record what we were saying. So moving on. Yeah, it's been a long day. We learned quite a lot. Probably that we weren't prepared enough for today, but Chris is gonna give you more details on that, because yeah, that's his domain.
It's time for a final recap. We are doing our last charge of the night. We're about 120 kilometers from Warsaw in Lodz, in a charging station which is pretty much in the middle of nowhere, on a big parking lot, to be honest. So we did in total 4 charges today, not counting the ones we actually didn't manage to charge on. Average consumption was 18.1 on the last 600 kilometers, which is actually pretty good. Things we learned is basically you need to do your bloody research. There's a lot of apps you need. It's not just the usual PlugShare and PlugCharge and those you could find on the Google Play Store, but you actually need to go and check in the country itself which ones they use. We needed now to download one for Poland, one for Czechia, and they work flawlessly, at least for now. Once you set them up. The only problem is some of them are also in the local language. There is no English in there, so you need to improvise a little bit, but usually the credit cards and everything else works. So all in all, there is not one solution for charging across Europe, especially in this part of Europe. As for the car, drives beautifully, absolutely beautifully. It sits nicely on the road, it's very silent, it's very quiet, smooth rolling. The consumption is pretty much on par what I expected, especially on the highway where the consumption is usually higher. There are still the issues of the software bugs and the software in general. I do not know who designed the software for the ENIAC and also the Kodiaq before that, but to me it seems like nobody who has actually ever driven a car. So they need to put a lot more work in there to get on par with other car producers, like Tesla is probably a spaceship right now. Or Hyundai or Mercedes. So the software is, especially the maps. The maps are something from, I don't know if you remember TomTom, the first navigations, but from the 90s. So the maps absolutely need more work to be actually usable, otherwise it's Android Auto, which also has its own problems. But the car itself, as I say, handling, driving, beautiful. It has its bugs. There is still lights coming on for various safety systems not working or stopping working, or the screen freezing middle driving. The sunroof we still cannot close or open. It's basically just decided it's gonna stop, and that's on a completely new car. But design wise, they hit the spot. For me at least, it's one of the most beautiful electric cars out there. Tomorrow we have the part 2, hopefully, of the tour, which is going from Warsaw then up to Latvia. There is far less charging stations on the way, but we should make do, and you'll see more of it on the second movie.